In this video lesson, we will be focusing on using hatching and cross-hatching to add tone to 3D forms. We'll be looking at how the direction of the hatches should change depending on the form. For this lesson, and for this task, you'll need a rubber, a ruler, a pencil, preferably a 2B pencil, and a sharpener. First of all, have a look at the handout which comes with this lesson. On it you'll see 4 3D forms: a cylinder, a cube, a cone and a sphere. In the first row at the top you'll see how hatching has been used to add tone to these forms. You'll then see the same 4 3D forms: cylinder, cube, cone and sphere, and how cross-hatching has been added to these forms. In this task I would like you to draw out the 8 boxes, to copy the 3D forms, and then to have a go at hatching and cross-hatching. In order to fit the 4 boxes along the top in, I'm going to make them 6 centimeters each. I'm going to begin by looking at the cylinder. Now, to draw a cylinder, if I could just sketch it down here to start with, instead of drawing a circle, which is what it would look like from the top, we're going to draw an ellipse. An ellipse is just a squashed circle. We then draw the sides of the cylinder, which are straight lines, and then we want a curved line at the bottom. It's probably easier to draw another ellipse so that the corners match up properly, and then you can remove the line that you shouldn't see. So there's our cylinder. I'm going to draw a cylinder here and a cylinder here now. When we last learned how to draw a cube, we drew it this way, the Y shape with the parallel lines, like so, as if we're looking at it from the corner. But on this page, on this worksheet that I've given you, we have it drawn this way, which is probably slightly easier. We start with a square, like so. We have 3 parallel lines moving towards the corner of the page, and then we want a line at the back which is parallel with this line, and then a line at the back here which is parallel with this line. A cone is pretty easy, and we're going to start with what would be a triangle, only instead of giving it a flat base, we're going to draw another ellipse. So not quite as tricky as the cylinder because we've only one ellipse. And then I'm going to make my lines a little bolder. And a sphere really just is a circle when you're drawing it, and it will only look like a sphere whenever you add shading to it. I know it's tempting to use a compass, but it's a good thing to practice trying to draw a perfect circle because it increases your pencil control on your page. And also, okay, so there we have it. We've got our 3 forms, but they won't look like forms until we add shading to it. So hatching and cross hatching, let's have a go on the practice ones down here. When it comes to hatching, so far we have just considered straight lines. We have said that those lines should be evenly spaced, close together, and parallel. So remember those 3 things: evenly spaced, close together, and parallel. And if I want to make them darker, I can, at one side, I can add more hatches in, but not go the whole way across. And if I'm cross hatching, then obviously I can put hatches in at a different angle. Now, that's a good exercise to do, but when we actually use that on 3-dimensional forms, we have to think about the direction of a cylinder. So when I'm hatching on one side of the cylinder, I want to take this line here as my cue, and I want to copy that line. Now, I don't want you to draw really slowly. That kind of defeats the purpose of it. I want you to learn how to flick your wrist with your pencil in a curved shape. And it is tricky to do. So I'm leaving quite large gaps there. That's fine. I can then fill in the gaps. Let's say the light is coming from this angle here. That means this side of the cylinder is going to be light and this side's going to be dark. So at this edge of the cylinder here, and maybe I'll make it a little bit bolder, I'm going to want to add more hatches. Just little short ones right at the edge of the shape. And that will make that side of the cylinder much darker. Now, if you were cross hatching a cylinder, it's quite simple. We would do this, and then we would have the option of adding a few vertical lines. But I want you to think about where they would go. If the light's up here, there would be more at the bottom, maybe even some down here, and there'd be probably very little up at the top. The cube is pretty easy. If our light source is coming from this direction, and it looks like it is, if we look at the worksheet again, then this is going to be our darkest side, this is medium, and this is light. If we're just hatching, then we're going to have to rely on lines going one direction. Remember, try and go from one side of the shape to another in one stroke. And if we were going to do cross hatching on our cube, we would get it this far and then we would add a second direction. And then maybe a second direction up here. Our cone, it's much like the cylinder. We're going to follow the shape round. If our light source is here, and obviously they should get shorter and shorter as we go to the top. Think about the cone in 2 halves, a light half and a dark half. And if we were doing cross hatching for our cone, we would do the same again. And this is where things can go wrong. Some people, when they're hatching and cross hatching a cone, they just choose a direction to go and they stick to it like that. But that flattens out the shape of the cone. I want you to think about the top of the cone. I'll do it with this one. Kind of like the sun, okay? Now it looks like a party hat, but you know what I mean. And think about what direction the rays would come out from the sun. They would come out like that, from the point, getting further apart as they go down. So when you're cross hatching, that's the direction your lines need to go. So I'll show you again up here. We start with our hatching. Imagine our lines are starting up here and they're emanating out like rays from the sun. And you could almost ghost, remember we talked about ghosting? You could ghost your line until you want to start drawing it. Imagine you're drawing it and then start it down there. And then our spheres. I think spheres are the trickiest when it comes to hatching and cross hatching. And we're going to just think about the shape of a ball, of a sphere. Follow it round, follow your lines round, but we want to leave this area here light. So you can see from watching this that it's quite tricky. I'm taking quite a while to build up those hatches. And if you're doing your cross hatches, it's just like the cone in a way. Don't be tempted just to have lines going straight down like that, because that turns it into a stripy circle. It doesn't turn it into a sphere. I want you to think about the shape of the sphere. So maybe it would be helpful to think about it like this. Our center line goes straight down, but as you move out, your lines are going to go like that. They're going to curve around the surface of your sphere. So that's right. This is wrong. So when we're cross hatching, we want our lines to follow the shape of the sphere. And you can go different directions as well, but as long as you curve it in line with the shape of the sphere. Now it's important, especially with the sphere, to tidy up your edges so you've got a nice, neat edge. Just a quick recap. When you get your A4 page or your sketchbook page, whatever you're working in, I want you to start by ruling out 4 boxes along the top, 4 along the bottom, and then we have a cylinder. That's going to be hatching, and then this one here is going to be cross hatching. Then we have a cube, hatching, cross hatching, a cone, hatching and cross hatching, a sphere, hatching and cross hatching. And I would recommend you get a bit of paper, or even work at the bottom of your sketch paper, and just practice, doodle, try it out, test it out, and then give me your best effort up here at the top of the page.